Hello, 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 guys. Welcome to this new edition of Mind Podcast. This is Aadit Kapadia. And yes, I hope you guys are not tired of seeing me. This is our third Mind Podcast in as many days. But the last week has been absolutely crazy. You've had the US elections, then we did another Mind Podcast on the Indic Film Utsav, and now we're doing the Bihar election. So it's like the election cycle has come a full circle. And with me, I have a fantastic panel. I have Avatans Kumar and Shwetank Bhushan, both columnists for Mindmakers, both authors, Biharis, resident Biharis, and people who, are involved in analyzing elections from Bihar. We lost Shwetank for a second there just as I introduced him, but he's back. So I was just saying that with me today are Avatans Kumar and Shwetank Bhushan, both columnists, both Biharis, who write for Mindmakers, observe elections, and have been at this game far longer than many people who claim to be Bihar election watchers. So first, before even we get into the details of the elections, let me go to Avatans first and then Shwetank, get his initial view. Avatans, what do you think? How do you make this is a cliffhanger, right? 20 hours we didn't know who the hell the winner was, and finally we knew at like 3 o'clock in the night India time and 4:30 for us or something here.
Thanks, Adit Bhai, for having me on your show again. And like we had discussed before the elections, when we were trying to get a handle of the situation, what was going on, I had said that it won't be an easy task for NDA, but I think NDA gets by the finish with easy comfort. It's not that easy when the votes were counted, because we were going back and forth, and especially in view of the exit polls that they came out, that was a big shocker, right? Not shocker in the sense that how the exit polls have performed lately, especially in India and Bihar, but shocking in the sense that this kind of exit poll, because. But overall, I think it was expected in the most of the people who watch Bihar. It was expected that NDA will eke out a victory, but
But yeah, the margin of victory is certainly very interesting. And we'll come to the numbers specifically, but I want initial thoughts from Shwetank before we get into numbers. So Shwetank, what do you think? What were the key issues, and where do you think the NDA sort of pulled ahead?
As the numbers appear, and as we discussed before as well, the anti-incumbency was there. And the acute anti-incumbency was there. And especially an election happening during pandemic or post-pandemic, fueled by a severe flood there in Bihar. I mean, I would say Nitish survived. And Nitish survived because Modi helped him survive. That's the bottom line of this election. Otherwise, this kind of an incumbency is enough to defeat any strong alliance.
Right, absolutely.
Anybody.
And here I have to go out on a limb and tell, praise Shwetank, he got his numbers absolutely spot on. We were talking on the day of exit polls and he's like, these numbers, the exit poll numbers, he did not believe them, and he was absolutely right. No exit poll got it right. Everyone claims they got it right, but no exit poll got it right. Because
that is the side effect of pollsters doing their job from home.
Absolutely. No, not just that. I think it's also, as Jake Tapper said on the US elections, you cannot get high on your own supply. Like he actually said this for exit pollsters in US.
Somehow I believe some of these political analysts, they sometimes read the mood, and they, despite reading the mood on the ground, they still lie from the teeth. I mean, I have seen that innumerable times.
The only one who got it very close, and I have to put out, is I think Yashwant Deshmukh. Yashwant and Times Now got it very close, where they gave 116 to BJP and 120 to Mahagathbandhan.
Yashwant was close.
Yeah, and I give that benefit of doubt, because 5 seat idhar ki udhar, that is understandable. That's within the range.
उतना किसी का भी गलत हो सकता है.
Exactly.
That depends on the different phases also, how it is moving.
Right. So, and Yashwant didn't give a 45 seat range for both parties and saying ki meri average sahi thi. So,
everyone's benefit, I should remind people that when we had that Lok Sabha 2019,
yes, Shwetank was the one who got it right.
Shwetank was spot on.
Achha, by the way, I have to tell you guys this, and since both of you were members of that exercise, that was very well received, and maybe we should do that for a couple other major elections. मुझे किसी ने बोला कि state elections में आपका क्या बिगाड़ा है, सिर्फ national के लिए ही करोगे? So I'm like, okay, I just didn't know that it was this well received. So now I'll do this with more.
Oh, really? That's a news.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what happens is when we get into the results, you know, we are so into the results themselves that we forget everything that was told to us pehle ka. So this was told that this was like a nice preview, you know, where rather than psephologists saying something, it was analysts based on their analysis and ground reports who were giving the numbers. But speaking of the numbers, without further ado, I will sort of show everyone what the situation is in Bihar right now. And well, these are the by-election numbers, guys. I'm going to show the by-election numbers in a bit. We're going to talk about, but basically 243 seats. As you can see, there was a neck and neck fight between the BJP and the RJD for the single largest party. RJD eked out that status by 1 seat, but the difference was BJP was in alliance with JDU, Vikassheel Insan Party, and the Hindustani Awam Morcha Secular, led by Jitanram Manjhi. So with their allies, they could comfortably get over the 122 mark, which is required for majority. About the RJD's allies, the less said about better. The only ally that actually did a little bit punched above their weight was the Communist Party of India, Marxist-Leninist Liberation. I mean, there are so many Communist parties of India. I think there are more Communist parties of India factions than the amount of seats they actually get in the Lok Sabha. but
this one that you were talking about, Male, Aadit Bhai, is the most violent.
Yes, this is the one that's led by Kavita Krishnan and Dipankar.
I mean, if you reanalyze and compare it with 2015, say, so
right,
I would say that BJP and the Communist parties are the real gainers.
Biggest gainers.
Everyone else has lost.
Yeah, BJP had 57
I would
seats.
say that RJD is still a winner because there was no Lalu Prasad Yadav, and Tejasvi himself carried on took the fight.
And then the RJD lost about 6 seats, so which is not a whole lot given the fact that this time they're only
the biggest winner is definitely the left parties. The left parties, especially because earlier they used to have a very strong bastion in Bihar. Mm-hmm. But since 2005, if I recall right, 2005 they had some 8-9 seats. In 2010 they went back to 1 and 2-3. In 2015 they were completely extinct.
I think the rise of Nitish Kumar also changed that, because in 2005, you still had a very split mandate. That was actually, for our listeners, I'll tell you, that was the highest point for Ram Vilas Paswan as well. When in February 2005, he was the kingmaker with 40 seats. Then he refused to be the king. So then he got hammered in October 2005. And then
that is why I say that despite Chirag losing this election,
right,
he was able and he succeeded in his vendetta politics, because since 2005, Nitish Kumar consistently worked on how to cut short Paswan.
Right. And what Shwetank was saying, I'll show it right here in our vote shares. These are again from the Election Commission of India, guys. We always refer to that website. So these are as accurate as it gets. So very interestingly, I think RJD, as you can see, has the biggest chunk of the pile as 23.1 seats. There is a caveat here though. RJD also contested on the most number of seats. BJP had
if we extrapolate these numbers, then I think BJP has the best
vote share.
Percentage of vote share.
Right. And the 15.4 you see is the JDU. Now, Shwetank, Avatans, and I have been watching political watches for a long time. And I don't think any one of us could have predicted that JDU, I mean, or maybe we could have predicted, but we just never knew that the decline of Nitish Kumar would be so fast. In 2009, JDU was the senior partner with 140 seats or 130 something seats that they contested. And BJP contested 102 seats with a better strike rate, yet JDU, was the senior partner, and they got 25 Lok Sabha seats. Now they're down to 15% of the vote. It's almost like पहले जो 2000 में हुआ था, where Samta Party was the junior partner and BJP was the senior partner, but BJP still gave Nitish sort of the senior partner status. It's like that. It's history coming back. So, Avatans, your first comments on that, and then I'm coming to Shwetank.
See, I think what is happening now, that it may not be directly related to your question, but it points to that, is that now after 2014, Nitish, that he has reached his potential. Okay. In politics, because soon after he realized that he cannot be the prime minister. Otherwise, people have been kind of pushing him, Sushashan Babu, and he's a good alternative, is a good acceptable face of the opposition. But after, definitely after 2019, it was all put down to rest. So I think he lost some of his mojo, some of excitement to be in politics. And I think we can see kind of, he didn't have much incentive to be in politics. That's my reading now. So he's trying to just maybe get out of it now slowly, maybe on the high note. But as you were saying, the numbers are down for JDU. One of the reasons, again, could be LJP. They ate out significant number of votes because they put out candidates specifically where JDU was and BJP was not contesting.
And that's what I'm coming to. In the pie chart, if you see closely, LJP is at, and I'll just zoom it in a little bit so that our people can see a little closer. It's 5.6%. Right. And now I'll come to Shwetank in a second about this. LJP did not contest all seats. So they have gotten a 5.6% of the overall vote. But if you take that and concentrate it in 100 seats, it almost goes upwards of 10 or 12%. Would I be correct in assuming that, Shwetank?
So
yeah,
sorry, Avatans first.
No, it's okay. Let Avatans finish first.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add, if you add that percentage of votes to the JDU categories, because that's part of NDA vote that LJP, overall has. So it changes the scenario.
No, we in fact did look at some of the key seats, and we analyzed that there are around 35 to 40 seats where LJP has directly affected JDU's win, and they actually made them lose those seats. Also, there are few seats like Raghopur and all, where they helped RJD at the cost of BJP. So wherever there was a difference of say 7,000, 8,000 votes, you'll see that slightly more than that is being taken by LJP. So they did, severely affect JDU's prospects in this election.
Absolutely.
And 6% was always there in pocket. That's their core vote support.
Yeah, in the Hajipur, Jamui area. And that's when they did win 6 Lok Sabha seats. So absolutely,
I also think that the Chirag wanted to try himself out and see what he can do by himself and in the name of his late father. And he found out. I think he realizes that perhaps it's not wise to just be by himself.
Yeah, absolutely. So if let's just take Raghopur for an example, right? And I'm just this is the ECI website. So basically, I'm just going to go to Raghopur and just kind of show our viewers, listeners. Again, guys, on SoundCloud, you can listen to the discussion, but for these parts, you'll have to come to YouTube. So my apologies, but there is just no way of us putting graphics on SoundCloud. So look at this. Tejasvi Yadav gets about 97,000 votes. You have the BJP candidate get close to 60,000, and then the LJP candidate get about 25,000. Now, one could say that the Draghopur maybe was a little more decisive for Tejasvi Yadav, but a lot of other seats, right, where JDU...
That's the kind of trend I was talking about.
That is the kind of trend. No,
that
absolutely.
appears.
Right. Go on, Shwetank. Finish your point.
Yeah. With reference to Tejasvi, I mean, that he was not a big factor. I mean, people were expecting him to be the X factor. He tried to fill into the gap. I mean, he wanted to check out the anti-incumbency of Nitish Kumar and fill into the gap where Tejasvi was not able to.
Yes.
But I think opposite to his father, he could not sense the weather well.
Yeah.
And I also believe that some of the constituencies that people used to talk about, I mean, of course, there is a caste factor and all that. In terms of constituency, people take their own constituency, caste, that kind of thing.
So this
has not completely died out, but it has, it has diminished in its significance. And the one thing that
has happened since 2014, as you were saying. I totally agree. Since 2014, there is a change in Indian politics. There are a lot of people who were backing Nitish, that he will challenge Nitish Kumar. After 2014, they have realized that he's no more a challenger, so they have dumped him down.
Absolutely.
Since 2014, there are a lot of vote cutting across the caste lines, which has galvanized behind BJP. So caste factor, of course, especially in the Hindi heartland, as they say, it has diminished much than it was earlier before.
Yeah. And the one point I would like to make is that, and when Aadit and I talked about it earlier, a couple of weeks ago, is the identity politics does not go away easily, because that's how you get votes, right? But the caste maybe in some of the states is being now overshadowed by what I called, or one of my very knowledgeable friend called it, electoral gender divide. So women now have become a constituency both for and Narendra Modi. Nitish Kumar has done a lot. If you look in absolute, comparative term for women, especially Nasha Bandi is not very popular among most people.
Totally agree.
Yeah, but before you complete your point, Avatans, I just wanted to show one thing. What Shwetank was saying. Look at Maharajganj, where Indian National Congress won the seat with 1,000 or 2,000 votes. They got 48,000 votes, 48,800 votes. JDU gets 46,850 votes, 849 votes, and the LJP gets close to 18,000 votes. Right, so it is way more than the margin. The margin was less than 1.5%, and LJP is polling 12%. So this is what Shwetank was talking about. In every seat, that's what they've done. Sorry, Avatans, go ahead. Yeah.
No, that's pretty much what I was going to say. Is that Nitish Kumar has done with his bicycles for girls and Nasha Bandi, and then the gas and the bathroom. I mean, it is so significant for women.
No, Nitish Kumar, in fact, cultivated this gender neutral vote constituency for himself. That's the women. And he has worked specifically for that particular vote bank. All this, but slowly and gradually that also was fading away because of the bootlegging in Bihar going. I mean, every corner you will find alcohol in Bihar. So that was fading away slowly, but the central schemes of Narendra Modi, that has touched the poor and vulnerable so much that it helped it galvanize behind the NDA. And this constituency absolutely is cuts across the caste line.
So then let's look at it in a bigger picture, right? Nitish will still be the CM of Bihar. But what do you think will happen to the national politics of Bihar? When I say national politics, is they also, everyone sends a significant chunk of Lok Sabha MPs.
You want to tell me about my wish or my expectations?
Both. Chalo, you start with your wish and then you go to your expectations.
Look, I mean, BJP definitely, they desire to have their own CM there for a long time.
No doubt about it. Yeah.
Okay, there is no hiding. But this conspiracy theory that was, invented in the TV studios, that they have put Chirag to dent Nitish, and by doing that, lose an election. That's stupid, I would say.
Right, absolutely.
But as of now, the numbers as it appears, they may have made up a false promise that Nitish would be the CM. Nitish is going to take the oath. For how long he will remain a CM, we cannot say now. Where he is looking his future, I don't know. Maybe at the center, maybe in the railway ministry.
I would wish we would have a senior minister from Bihar who is not the railway minister of India.
No, but that's where they get ready to leave the CM's post.
No, but I always say that, and people get shocked. I was like, my favoriteest minister from Bihar is not the railway minister, and they're like, "Aisa kaun hai?" And I'm like, you all forget George Fernandes. He was the defense minister, right?
George or that industry minister.
I would like to forget about his tenure as
Kumar को defense minister छोड़ दो, बाकी कोई भी portfolio दे.
नहीं, मैं नीतीश की बात नहीं कर. Well, नीतीश कुमार George Fernandes भी तो नहीं है. No, my thing is no. Avatans bhai, I was saying that when it comes to George Saab's tenure as an industries minister, more than him, I would like to forget that tenure because बाकी तो कुछ नहीं, मुझे अपनी कोक बड़ी पसंद है. So, but that's all frivolous, right? Let's talking about RJD. This is a very significant and interesting elections, and I may think 10 things about Lalu's career. I don't agree with him. I mean, I don't have to caveat this. If you guys have heard Mind podcast for 260 episodes, you probably know what I think about Lalu. But that Tejasvi,
no one agrees with Lalu Prasad Yadav and his politics unless you are in a house NDTV political analyst.
Yeah, exactly.
But despite disagreeing, I think that Lalu must be very proud of his young son, looking at the outcome of this election.
Yeah. But let me tell you this, because this is the most interesting part, right? Now there is a clear line of succession, which is not Misa Bharti, which is not his Tej Pratap Yadav, it is Tejasvi Yadav, right? So what do you think, Avatans? Do you think that it also means that everyone else, like the dynasty debate is settled amongst the RJD? The others are not even close anymore.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the higher apparent for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. What were you saying, Avatans?
No, I agree. I think that thing is settled. I don't think Misa was very politically minded. She entered reluctantly, and he put up everybody. Lalu put up everybody on election. So. And people realize that Tej Pratap is not stable enough to be in politics, and Tejasvi is young and he made mistakes. If he did, he will overcome. He has time. He has some better exposure too, I think, in terms of politics. So he has a future.
Absolutely.
How maybe people believe that what Tej Pratap has to offer to Indian politics, Rahul Gandhi is sufficiently doing that. So
yeah.
Yes. That is the most brutal one-line takedown of Tej Pratap and Rahul Gandhi ever. So, or maybe Tej Pratap does it in a more entertaining fashion than Rahul Gandhi. Who knows? So, but guys, if you are expecting me to do screen share with all Tej Pratap Yadav's antics, no, that is not going to happen.
No,
We are
not now.
going to-
Not in this show.
I just wanted
This
to.
is it's a
I just
family
wanted
show.
to
Come on.
come in quickly.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about Nitish ji,
Uh,
what I wanted to remind people that when you said that how long he will be the CM, because that's what have been said until recent, until going into the elections, that he will be the CM and he probably will be the CM. But how long? That's again a question. But remember that he does not come from Vidhan Sabha, right? So he comes from क्या बोलते हैं?
MLC, the upper house. Yeah, as an MLC.
Upper house. Okay, so there's no
Vidhan
net
Parishad.
loss, right? Even if he hangs his boot, that's no net loss for this thin margin that we have. Even if he moves to Rajya Sabha or center, there is no net loss, and anybody can come up and be the chief minister.
Correct.
Absolutely. But let me this is a very interesting election in Bihar. Ramvilas Paswan, he had his tragic passing away right before it, right? You have Nitish Kumar, sort of, he said it's his last election, and he's probably at his weakest he's ever been in the last 20 years. You had Lalu Prasad Yadav in jail and his son coming out and doing this. So and Sharad Yadav's daughter also lost. So it is almost like a setting of the sun of the stalwarts of Bihar politics, who have dominated Bihar politics for the last 35-40 years.
Coming back to Tejasvi, I would say, although I believe that all the strategies were made in Ranchi jail, but Tejasvi has been able to execute them well. He took the taking back the leftists in the MGB was a masterstroke.
Exactly.
Okay. Not only that, you would never see Tejasvi attacking Narendra Modi directly. Yeah. He'll talk about unemployment and migrant workers, all sort of things, but never attacks Narendra Modi directly. Yeah. And you have seen this guy, Abdul Bari Siddiqui. He was once the president of RJD. Pradesh president of RJD. He also lost the election. Why? Mostly because his remarks against Narendra Modi was so cheap and so such bad remarks. Yeah. So, which Tejasvi always maintained a distance, that he does not look like that he's directly attacking Narendra Modi.
Yeah, so a lot of people actually told me that he was locally not saying that, he was locally not even making points about the RSS, because we've seen Lalu make some very severely bad points about the RSS back in the day. And what is interesting is, also in Simanchal, you see Asaduddin Owaisi cutting into a lot of the Tejasvi and Congress votes. So that is another gainer also, Shwetank, we forgot to mention, is Asaduddin Owaisi, who went from one seat, who went from 0 to 5, I think, or 1 to 5, if I'm not mistaken. And just to kind of give you guys a perspective, Rajdeep Sardesai questioned him yesterday, saying, how can you disrupt the secular morcha? And Asaduddin Owaisi gave him
we all saw
lashing.
We all saw that was, actually, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many people, the rise of parties like OSCs, AIMIM, would rather help, in finishing the caste politics.
Right.
Okay. So people will directly deal with these parties, the so-called minority parties, instead of dealing with their middlemen like Congress. Or other so-called secular parties.
Exactly. Avatans, what do you want? And I'm going to come to Congress. What is your take on Congress?
See, I don't know when the last time I remember, as I said, there was a Congress chief minister in Bihar was 1990. I was in my early 20s, right? And after that, we haven't had, like they have never even, they have not been in the second place even. So when you go to the grassroots level, when you fight these kind of contested elections, that cliffhangers, there is no grassroots level of organization of Congress in Bihar at all. There is no leader at all. So it's very hard for Congress to just come up and say, okay, I'll fight 70 seats and win.
I cannot agree more than that. In fact, if Congress happens to fight Bihar alone, they won't even get 243 people to fight on their ticket.
No, I agree.
That's
completely.
the status of Congress. But since the emergence of all this, Lalu Yadav here or Mulayam Singh Yadav and Kanshi Ram in UP, Congress has gifted these states to these regional leaders.
Absolutely. And what is stunning is that the Congress party refuses to change, right? That high-handed approach, that top-down approach. So Shekhar Gupta had this wonderful line on, I don't know if it was in print or editing or somewhere he said it, that the Congress is that boxer who punches above his weight and ends up injuring his own partner instead. So,
that was giving 70 seats to Congress to contest was the most fatal blow that MGB got, and that's where the election was concluded.
Sorry, Avatans, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just saying that from a personal note, I have many friends and their family members who contested Bihar election. From my new days, one of my very close, from all kinds of party. I'm telling you, from the communists to the BJP and the Congress and RJD, every places. There is one friend that I'm talking about. I won't name him. He has been a very strong guy, very ground level worker, and he has not. They didn't give him a ticket this time, and they just bring somebody who's close to the Gandhi family, or I don't know what criteria they have. We were all hoping that he will get this.
Maybe close to Surjewala this time.
Yeah. And that's the level. That's the level of their
organization. A man who cannot win an election on his own was the convener of the party in Bihar. That's their state.
But that is classic
party,
Congress.
I don't know. This party is Congress has become a liability, a big liability for any alliance, whichever alliance they stick with. It's at the cost of. Whoever is aligned with them is facing it.
But look at UP. I think Tejasvi's decision to give Congress 70 seats was the second sort of dumb decision after Akhilesh's decision to give more than 100 seats in UP. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. 100 plus seats in Uttar Pradesh in 2017. So
and they lost in bypoll in UP. They lost even the deposit.
No, I'm coming to I'm coming to bypolls very soon. But out of 107, there were 9 seats. 9. It's just unbelievable in UP. And in Bihar, out of 70, they were 19.
They won single seat in 2019 Lok Sabha election. They are supposed to be the national parties. So
I also
if you extrapolate that, then 9 seat was a lot.
Avatans, you were saying something, and I'm coming to the by-elections in a second.
I just wanted to say that this was a perfect opportunity for opposition to derail, because remember the coronavirus, the pandemic. One of the most affected people were from Bihar, who walked hundreds of miles to come back home. Yeah. They suffered a lot in terms of unemployment and many other things. Right. They were mistreated all over, but they still come back. They could not change the outcome.
Yeah.
And I agree. If they cannot capitalize on the pandemic, and a severe, that was not covered nationally, but this time the flood in Bihar was severe.
Yeah.
Anti-incumbency, pandemic, flood, and despite that, if a leader cannot capitalize that, then he's not a leader.
Absolutely. And that's what I said. This is something, this gives me a great segue into the 2000, into the bipolls. Before that, we have to make one mention of the glorious National Party of India, the Shiv Sena, which broke a record of the record of one party losing the maximum number of deposit, maximum number of seats in which they lost their deposit in an election. DD1 had this whole 30-second clip on it. It's outstandingly funny. They've delivered it with this straight pan, deadpan humor. You must watch it. I tweeted it out. But basically, they got 0.05%. And sometimes I wonder why the hell were they fighting. But Shiv Sena does have a lot of inflated opinion about themselves after talking to a few journalists and podcasters. So, क्या पता, शायद उनको लगा बिहार में भी sweep हो जाए सेना का. But I'll come to the bipolls, right? And Avatans, I'll come to you. Yes, please.
One more thing.
मुझे लगा ही one of you will say something on Sena. So,
well, I'm not talking about Sena, but I'll stick to Bihar itself, because I must tell you, because I've been involved. I'm an involved Bihari. I have lived in the states since early 1990s, but I have not left Bihar. So I'm very much involved. I have family there all over Bihar. But what I wanted to mention is that in the last few years, 3 to 4 years, been extensive ground level work in organization. And some of the people that you wouldn't hear or probably have heard, who have worked hard to get BJP to this level, where they clean sweep the NDA in 2019 Lok Sabha election and now their Vidhan Sabha election, is young people. I would mention one person or two, maybe even now. The current general secretary, he was the vice president, and I have seen him going around the villages and just walking on foot to all over, to consolidating and spreading messages. So, he has a big hand. And now look at the young people coming from Bihar. We can talk about Guru Prakash, right? He's been just made the national spokesperson. So there is a transition, as we were talking about who next. Old guards are going away, but BJP has looks like now certain extent RJD does too, with the transition to the new generation.
BJP has that tradition in its organizational structure, that people grow in the ranks.
Yeah, I'll leave everyone with this as we move to the by-election discussion, that now Bihar, the two big parties of Bihar are BJP and the Rashtriya Janata Dal, RJD, and they will be the fighting for the pole position. And JDU is a close second, as in it will still be an equal or little bit unequal partner with BJP. And Congress is just a fringe player. And that is the reality of Bihar. I would say LJP is probably more influential than Congress, if I were to be absolutely brutal, because LJP is only influential in its pockets, but it's very influential there. So that's what, we have to see. So coming to the by-elections, what I want you guys to, play back a few seconds and listen to what Avatans and Shwetank both said, that this was probably their best chance to win Bihar, with the way the things are. And I made a similar comment in 2017 about Gujarat, that was Congress's best chance to win Gujarat. If they cannot do it in 2017, it's going to be very difficult for them to do it, because they are riddled with factionalism and stuff. And you can see what happened. In Gujarat, there were 8 seats that were held by Congress, and BJP won all 8 of them. I mean, it's incredible. Even the most optimists on the BJP side would have given them a 6-2 or a 7-1 verdict. But here is what I really guys want you to see. Look at the vote share. BJP's vote share was 55% compared to Congress. That's a 21% deficit. Matlab, it was not even a contest at one point of time. And if this is, and these are Congress strongholds, these were Congress, if this is the trend, then, and this is after a very tumultuous year for Gujarat in terms of COVID, where we had a lot of COVID cases, a lot of, industries being affected. Economically, Gujarat is a state that is very dependent on, how the economic story of India goes as well. Sometimes the votes, go on that. if that didn't factor in by 2022, when we will be in economic recovery, COVID, hopefully, God willing, will have gone. I don't know what fate awaits the Congress. This is
Aadit, if you are holding this the screenshot of Gujarat vote share for this long on your screen, you will lose a lot of followers. I'm telling you, because this is humiliating. This is humiliating for Congress.
Yeah,
I mean, in Gujarat, in fact, there is no more contest left.
But what is surprising
has moved
is
away from Congress.
Congress still would get to within 8 or 10%, and the seats that it would hold, like for a long time, I would expect them to get within 4 or 5%. 21% is unbelievable.
If I'm right, most of these 8 seats come from Congress strongholds.
All of them were held. Maybe 2 or 3 you can say bellwether, but all of them were held by Congress last time.
Okay, and then this is the situation. So what do I mean, you look at UP, the BJP winning 6 out of 7.
Yeah.
Congress losing deposit on, I think, maximum seats. What happens in Madhya Pradesh? The same story. Karnataka, the same story. I mean, the story of Bihar and the story of these bipoles is the same. These results are vindication of the BJP, and it shows the continued decimation of Congress. That's the story.
Absolutely.
And on Gujarat, probably I would like to make one more point, is that Rupani Sahab has arrived. So the vacuum that was seen after Modi ji perhaps is filled, and maybe not in that grand scale, but it has been plugged in.
Absolutely.
Completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. It's a huge thing, because he was going up against Hardik Patel, who was propped up by the media, right? He had own factions within the party, and I think that has sort of changed. But then going that to 2 huge stories. One is Uttar Pradesh, where the BJP won 6-1 against Samajwadi Party, right? And if you look at the vote share, like again, Uttar Pradesh is a 4-cornered contest. I mean, here too, Congress is a marginal player. They got 7.5% of the vote. And BSP, which is unusually does not contest by elections, has made exceptions last few times to contest by elections. So, but in a 4-cornered contest, if you get about 35-36% of the vote, you are going to win, because that is still 12-13% higher than what the closest challenger got here. So it's a big win for Yogi as well.
Right, and the other part of it is now the Priyanka Gandhi is in charge of Uttar Pradesh. Let's not forget.
I was expecting this coming from Antas.
Yes, Priyanka
Gandhi. Phenomenal leadership.
This is Priyanka Gandhi's election.
Absolutely. And from there we go to Madhya Pradesh, which was the most critical by-election, where BJP won 19 out of 28. They were supposed to do pretty well. I think they were looking for at least between 12 and 16 to be in a comfortable majority sort of state. 19 out of 28. This is a shot in the arm for Jyotiraditya Scindia as well. But look at the vote percentages, guys. Again, 49.5 to 40.5, 9% vote gap between the BJP and the Congress. So this is what I want to show you guys. Acha, Shiv Sena ne yahan bhi contest kiya. I was just saying 0.13. they except for Maharashtra, where they should be winning, they are contesting everywhere. Or where they should be contesting, I should say. But that's the thing, right? Look,
अगला MP का CM शिवसेना से ही होगा.
I thought Shiv Sena will stake claim to the government of Bihar. So anyways, but here is the thing. 19 won't you guys agree? This is a huge boost for Jyotiraditya Scindia, because he was being looked in the BJP. Yes, he was welcomed in the BJP, but it was looked that can he deliver the state, and I think now they might make him a national cabinet minister, because if Shivraj is supposed to be the CM, then they'll probably make Jyotiraditya a cabinet minister for 4 years.
I guess so. I mean, and he deserves so.
Yeah.
I also think that now the there is a reshuffle on the card in the center, because there are lots of seats to be filled. The people, some ministers have unfortunately passed away, and things like that. So it's a long overdue, and hopefully saying that hopefully after Bihar election, so we'll see.
Yeah. And
but definitely Scindia has proved his mental. He has proved his usefulness in BJP, and he's here to stay. Despite at a couple of places he said Punjab pe button daba.
Yes.
That's, I mean, वो रिफ्लेक्स में आ जाता है यार.
हाँ, but that is still better than what who's it? Karan Singh's son did, Vikramaditya Singh. Just look up what he did in rallies. Not this time, pehle, because he has switched a lot of parties. So, but from Madhya Pradesh, if I were to come, and we're going to wrap up in the next 5-10 minutes, but here is one thing I want to point is Telangana. Now, Telangana, it was this election, and Mindmakers has a piece on it. Sorry guys for the shameless plug, but you are on a Mindmakers stream, so I can plug Mindmakers articles shamelessly. But we have someone from Telangana who has written this piece, which is Suresh Kochatil, and he talks about how this Dubbaka by-election, the BJP had a nominee who had lost it twice. And it was almost Telangana Rashtriya Samiti gave it to the widow of the ex-MLA who passed away, or the old MLA who passed away. And BJP actually maintained a lead. And although they only won it by 1%, this is a very crucial thing, because generally the ruling parties tend to do well in by-elections, as we have just shown in the last 3 sort of things. But here, the opposition has actually won. And now BJP is, and look at the Congress's vote share here, 13.5%. They were supposed to be the challengers to TRS in Telangana, but I think now BJP is coming up to be the number 2 party in Telangana. Any thoughts, guys, on
That's the story. I mean, in Telangana, that by this win, BJP takes the second pole position, and now it's Telangana is between TRS and BJP. So Congress has said tata bye-bye from there as well.
It's unbelievable. And lastly, I want to leave you guys, and I mean, I know you can see Odisha to BJP number 2, Manipur, Nagaland, and Haryana, Chhattisgarh and Haryana. I think Congress did win something, but the other seat is Karnataka, where Karnataka also, BJP was a little bit on the back foot, but they won 2 seats. But again, look at the vote share. 51.7% vote share, and Congress gets 33 and JDS gets 12.
That's huge.
So absolutely, this is just unbelievable what we've seen yesterday. And if the last year was, sort of a setback, in the last 6 months, sort of a setback for Narendra Modi politically with the lockdown and so forth, because not of his choosing per se, but just how COVID and the economy has panned out, I think this is a huge shot in the arm. So in closure, I would like to ask you both, for your closing comments, what do you make of Bihar by-elections, and how do you think we're headed forward? Because in 6 months, we are having elections in another 5 states.
Well, basically, I would say that despite some of the, jolts that every once in a while we get, nobody doubts the integrity of his leadership. He may have made mistakes. Every once in a while he does make mistakes. And I think, but at the time, specifically in COVID, because he got whatever was fed to everybody, right? There was a lot of misinformation about what causes it and how much damage it will do. So he kind of, took an action and shut down, and this whatever was very damaging to a lot of people. But now see how he has learned from that, and with the new information, he has moved on. He has changed his strategy. Elections would not have happened without kind of prime minister giving a go ahead to it, and we are still in the middle of pandemic. So I think what stands out from all these elections, we have Vidhan Sabha elections and by-polls, is that Narendra Modi still stands tall in India. So there is no question denying that.
That's the bottom line. I agree, and I second that people may agree, disagree on his mistakes, no mistakes, but they never doubt his intent. They understand that whatever he is doing for the country, and people many occasions have been ready to suffer for the longer run benefit of the country.
Right.
Be it GST, be it demonetization, people have proven that they trust him, and they are ready to suffer for the time being if he has narrated the cause that it is going to help the country in the long run.
Yeah, trust
So that's
is the
the
most
bottom line.
important
I
thing.
mean, all these elections are actually a referendum to Narendra Modi, I would say.
Very interesting times, guys. We'll be here to discuss all the elections, do all the numbers, as you know, number crunching. But I appreciate both Avatans and Shwetank joining me today. One thing I want to leave you guys with before we end the show is that ultimately, be it state elections or by-elections, sometimes people in the studios, pundits, especially in Delhi studios, overemphasize on what goes in the mind of the voter. Something it is as simple as who's going to get my job back. Sometimes it's as simple as who's going to defend my country the best. And sometimes it could really be where do I see my state going 5 years from now? So the next time you have someone giving sort of this crazy lot of theories or something, think about that elections can be as complicated as you can make them out to be, or as simple as you can make them out to be. But at Mindmakers, what Shwetank, Avatans, and I will do is we'll sit and decode them for you and hope to have a lot of fun along the way. But thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Aadit, for having us.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
This has been great, and we'll do one of these very soon again. And please like us on Facebook, follow them all on Twitter. We guys, let them know what you guys think. Follow Mindmakers on Twitter. Subscribe on our YouTube channel. I keep forgetting to say that, and I get a lot of hate from my own team saying, "Why don't you say subscribe to our YouTube channel?"
And share.
Yes, please share. Share our videos, guys.
Follow and share.
We'll be back soon.
We are one of you. We are not experts. We are just one of you.
Absolutely. We'll be back next week, guys. Thank you so much. And before we go, a very happy Diwali to everyone, because we won't be back before Diwali.
Yes. Happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali. And in the US, we have Veterans Day today.
Absolutely. So, remember spend a moment thinking of all the people there. So thank you, guys.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.